We've talked in the past about how this sector, unlike IT, which has always been governed by the pace of Moore's law when it comes to innovation, and how best of brightest historically in IT led that innovation, actually leads to competitive differentiation in our sector when companies actually adopt that model. How do you think about competitive differentiation given that framework you just laid out for PG&E?
Well, you know, as you mentioned in your introduction, I've spent about 15 years of my career in very competitive or hyper-competitive environments, and then 15 years with people like AT&T, Pac Bell, and PG&E. And you know, what we've seen in so many regulated industries is the transition more towards a competitive environment. And so the conclusion that I came to for our company is we wanted to move as much as we could towards running the company like a competitive company. Mm-hmm. So it starts with the customer. You need to understand their needs. You need to translate those needs into operational requirements, and you need to deliver faster, better, more cost effectively every day. Yeah. This audience and you look to deal with the utilities, you need to kind of develop a point of view about where are they on the spectrum relative to change. Yeah. And where are the best opportunities for our technology and where we're located in terms of sort of mapping and then how it fits with utilities.
So let's talk in some more detail about that. I referenced your smart meter program. You've also done some great work on the PV side. You know, give us some sense of where specifically you've got programs right now, where you're looking for innovation. You've got a number of investors and entrepreneurs in the audience. If you're creating a whiteboard of things that PG&E is looking for, what should we know about?
Okay. So there are a couple of areas. One, we have talked and we will do a filing within the next quarter or two about our involvement as an equity investor in renewables. Mm-hmm. So that is coming. I think the focus will be primarily on the solar side because of the coincidence of availability of solar with our peak power needs. Right. So that's certainly it. And we'll be looking at different applications. We're going to look at where might we partner with people in communities, governments very interested in that, although we have to acknowledge governments, particularly in California, state and local, will be under a lot of pressure there.
And before leaving solar, you've already had major solar partnerships right now with OptiSolar, SunPower. Maybe talk about some of those.
Yeah, Ozar.
On the thermal side, yeah.
So I think we're going to see major solar, central solar applications, but we're also going to look at more disparate, smaller scale technology because there seems to be a need and a desire to do that on a more distributed basis. So you will see us there, but the difference is to date we've been a procurer of that power through contracts, PPAs. Right. And what we're going to do is we're going to move to equity investing. And one of the things is we generate more than $1 billion of taxable income. Right. So we have a tax appetite when so many financial institutions today do not. Right. So that's an opportunity. We will look at wind, but I think that's going to be secondary. And as I mentioned on the solar, it will be central station, but also rooftop applications. People are probably familiar with what Edison did. Yep. We'll do something along those lines. And then, as I say, also, we're looking at communities such as Marin, who really want to show their commitment. Yep. And see if we can do something there. So that's renewables. And we all are doing, you know, things like biogas too, but I don't think that'll be the heart of our equity investment. Okay. Smart grid, you know, as you mentioned, we're working with Silver Springs to deploy 10 million smart meters, and that should be done by about 2012 timeframe. Mm-hmm. We've just moved from a previous technology, which was closed architecture, to the open architecture of Silver Springs, and the commission, I think, is about to approve all of that change, but we're actually deploying the new technology now. Yep. So, you know, there's a huge application with the home area network. Right. So because of the open architecture, we're going to create the ability for appliances to talk within the home, to talk also back to the utility, for neighborhoods to manage it. Right. So that is the area that I think is really intriguing, requires substantial intellectual power to fully contemplate the full spectrum of opportunities there.
Talk about coal. You know, a lot of people here are focused on finding new kinds of coal technologies. I know PG&E is not based on a coal infrastructure, but you know, given your role and leadership in the utility industry, talk about what you're seeing on the coal side and what people out here ought to be focused on in terms of innovation.
Right. Well, to your point, in terms of coal, we use less than 1%. Yeah. It's approximating zero. But we're actually very interested in coal technology and the development of coal technology because of the big concern about the dash to gas. Right. Gas. And so we want to see and promote, and we're very interested in clean coal technologies. You know, the EPRI, which is the industry think tank organization on the peninsula, has said, you know, they've looked at what we need to meet the power needs of the United States by 2030, and we need it all. Yeah. We need clean coal, we need nuclear, we need solar, we need wind, we need energy efficiency, very importantly. So we're exceedingly interested in seeing people develop clean coal technology for really our brethren in the industry. You know, energy security is such a major concern and should be for this country. And we need to get off the oil issue and move away. And coal, we are just rich with that natural resource in the United States. And one needs to combine with that the fact that the great new opportunity we see on the horizon is the electric car. Yeah. And we see that really coming to deployment in the 2010 to 2020 timeframe. Smart meter is a critical enabling technology for that. But boy, clean coal technology, if you all can bring that forth, the utilities of the United States will pursue it. The government, who we're talking to regularly, feels we need to have it. That is an area that is ripe for development and money making. And what I would say is, to the extent that you can avoid issues that entail sequestration, that will be a huge bonus, because frankly, there are a lot of issues on sequestration, and I worry about whether we'll be able to work through all the legal issues. Yeah. I think the technology will be there before the legal framework.
That makes sense. Let's go from macro trends to really rubber meets the road, how a young company can work with a PG&E. I think you referenced the initial closed architecture deployment on smart meters to now going to an open architecture. You know, the old model in investing in energy technology was, gosh, if the utilities are your customers, you got a long road to death. Right. You know, now we're talking about partnerships that actually can make a company. Right. You know, how do you think about how our company should be approaching you, working with you, designing architecture to work with you and get the kind of big contract you just described?
What led to a very successful career was I knew my clients intimately, what their needs were, what their problems were, what their governance was. And as one of my clients, who was a VP of corporate development at Bell South, he said, you know, I'm thrilled working with you because you understand how this place works better than I do, you know? And so you understand what buttons have to be pushed and how to do it. So that was my experience on Wall Street. Then when I was at Advanced Fiber, and we were a small technology company trying to call on the big Bell companies and break through. We had broken through with the small telcos, but not the big regionals. Understanding and studying them were so important. So what I would urge all of you is study your clients. And I mean not a little bit, I mean really deeply. One of the things you might consider is hiring people either as a consultant or people that have worked for the company full-time and bring them on board. What you're going to find is within your company, you're going to have a culture challenge then, because they'll keep on telling you, you need to do X, and you'll say, no, we really want to do Y. And they'll keep on coming back and say, no, you need to do X. And then everybody in the company is going to say, well, you know, there's a problem with Bob. He doesn't really get us. Yeah. And so, you know, what you need to think about is when you're in a high technology company, there's a tendency to focus on your products and think it's the greatest thing in the world, and you get very product oriented and you're pushing products. But what the clients want is they want solutions to their problems. And so you need to reconfigure your orientation to the customer's orientation and step into their world and look at it that way and say, okay, I am the customer. Now, how do I see this product and service, and why should it be available? You know, sometimes when I talk to people and say, you really need to understand it, they come back and they study the problem like that. I'm talking about studying the problem like that.